Well, as we all know, conservatives and evangelicals are attacking our LGBTQ plus allies, and boycotting companies and brands supporting the queer community is not new. It's not a new trend. This Pride season, however, many big names have faced the threats of boycotts and negative publicity. Target, Starbucks, and Bud Light are just to name a few. Conservatives have recently targeted Bud Light, for example, for a partnership with trans influencer Dylan Mulvaney. Bud Light did not fight the Mulvaney backlash the way that the LGBTQ community thought they should, angry that the company isn't standing by its work with the transgender influencer. While the nation is witnessing this, today's guest, a Wisconsin beer brewer, has spent years creating beers and are proudly progressive, liberal, and including brews dedicated to left-wing political stars like lesbian Senator Tammy Baldwin from his state of Wisconsin, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez from New York, and Senator Bernie Sanders from Vermont. Welcome to Unapologetically Queer. I'm your host, Al Ferguson, and I am proud to talk to some of the most interesting people of our LGBTQ plus and allied community that are the most interesting to the LGBTQ plus community. This program is unique because it is an unedited conversation. At Hotspots Magazine Happening Out Television Network, our mission is based on the 10 pillars of the LGBTQ community. We believe our history, but especially our future, are based on the communities of the Black LGBTQ plus, Latino, lesbian and queer women, trans, students and youth, seniors, HIV/AIDS healthcare, business, which we'll talk about today, social justice, and faith. Kirk Bangstad is the proud owner of the Minocqua Island Brewing Company, the Brewery. He is a Harvard graduate that left his mark in Silicon Valley before becoming a proud owner of the Minocqua Island Business Group that works with local businesses to bring more tourism to this beautiful northern Wisconsin town. Kirk was an ally to the LGBTQ plus community and made national news this year by choosing to announce that his brewery is 100% progressive, liberal, and chose activism and protest through his business products. So, right to it, we welcome Kirk Bangstad, and I understand you are an ally and support Unapologetically Queer.
Absolutely, Al. Thanks for having me on your show.
We are excited to have you. We're committed to talking about LGBT business, including business owners that are LGBTQ+, but also especially to the businesses that are allies to our community, and it's very important to us. First off, before we dive into the different things that are so interesting about what you're doing at Minocqua Island Minocqua Brewing Company. Tell us about the business and why you decided to get into brewing beer.
Well, so I grew up in Wisconsin, and simply the Minocqua is a beautiful tourist town in northern Wisconsin. And I actually was living in Manhattan, and I had was a management consultant for technology companies, but my wife got cancer in New York, and we decided to go back closer to Wisconsin, or in Wisconsin where my family was, so that we could help take care of her when she got sick. So we moved to Minocqua, and I just decided to buy this a little brew pub there because it's a beautiful little town. We lived on a lake, and I needed something to do while my wife was sick. So I bought this, not knowing that COVID was going to come and pretty much decimate the entire restaurant and bar industry. So although I wasn't planning on being political, it kind of landed on my lap. I had to fight for my survival. And when Donald Trump downplayed the importance of COVID, just like in Florida, Wisconsin reversed all of the kind of the healthy mandates that were passed down by our Democratic governor, and we became the Wild West of COVID, just like you guys were, and I thought that was wrong, and so I started becoming political, and I started becoming more outspoken when I had to close my brew pub, and I hung a giant Biden sign on the side of the largest building in this little tourism town, and from there, the New York Times found it, and the Washington Post found it, and somehow I became a spokesman for what was happening politically in northern Wisconsin for the big 2020 presidential election, and that happened after. Yeah, that's kind of how I got thrust into politics.
You know, my friends at Fox News and at Newsmax would say, "Wow, that's the kiss of death for a business to hang a big Biden sign on your business building." And Kurt, newsflash here. We're in South Florida, and in Florida. I don't know if you know this, but especially the northern half of Wisconsin is not New York or Boston or, it's a little different where you're at.
We're as red as it gets in where we are. Weirdly, though, we do have second homeowners who are from Madison, Milwaukee, Minneapolis, and Chicago. And so the actual tourists that spend money up there are generally quite progressive. But the people who vote are about as red as it gets. It's a very rural area.
Yeah. What's fascinating about your story, and I want to get right into it, what's fascinating about your story is Wisconsin is interesting to the LGBTQ community, of course, and we're going to talk about her in just a bit. You have a lesbian senator, and Wisconsin has been very, very red. Many people would have said you had a bit of a crazy streamed governor previously, and the other senator is quite interesting in Wisconsin, and no shame on Wisconsin because we're Florida after all. We invented crazy, by the way, down here. But you're interesting from the standpoint, and Wisconsin's interesting to the entire LGBT American community because we're watching the trend changes that are going on. You all have stood up to the Supreme Court vote that took place, and you changed the top leadership in Wisconsin, and you have this lesbian senator. It's like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde going on right before our very eyes, which is why we're so interested in it in LGBT. What's going on in Wisconsin?
So the New York Times just said that there's only really 3 swing states left in America. It's Georgia, Arizona, and Wisconsin. So we are 24/7 politics all year round. And basically I think, this is my opinion only, I mean, we have just like every state, we have our populated areas, which are very blue, and then our rural areas, which are very red. But I think the thing about Wisconsin is that we're very trusting people. We're not, media literate, and so when you spend millions of dollars on political campaigns, a lot of the people I think end up believing the ads because we're hardworking, trusting people who generally don't, aren't that corrupt, as other states have been in the past. And so I think that we are swayable because people manipulate us as a population up here.
It's interesting also, which is how I want to fold our conversation about Minocqua Brewing Company in. So you start this in 2016, and something else happened in 2016. I'm trying to remember. I remember now. And you declared, which has gotten a lot of publicity, that you are completely a progressive, liberal, supporting business. Now, in some respects, that might be the kiss of death, and in some place in the northern half of Wisconsin, that might be bad for you. Why did you decide that you wanted to say that?
Well, we were going to be going Nancy Pelosi passed that second round of PPP money, which enabled restaurants and breweries to exist throughout the United States. But Mitch McConnell held up that second round because in admitting that we needed another tranche of money to support all these businesses, he would be undercutting Donald Trump, saying that COVID wasn't really a thing. And so I became political because I was going to go bankrupt because of the first time in my life as a white, cisgender male. I'd been screwed by my government. They had screwed me, and I had never felt like that. That had never happened to me before, and so I became very political. And I was going to have to go out of business. So I figured I'd go down swinging, I hung a Biden sign, and I made Biden beer, which I called inoffensive and not bitter. That was
That's funny.
And it came out, and people from all over the country, it made Politico, it made thehill.com. I came out with this beer, and I basically had a picture of Biden with sunglasses on, chilling after he got elected. And everybody loved it. And people came from all over the place so they could get, a can of Biden beer, because Biden had won by 20,000 votes in Wisconsin out of 5 million people. And so it was just, people were exalting, people were just, dancing in the streets. At least the progressives were.
And we're going to show some of the implementations of MBC, which is what Minocqua is commonly referred to. I understand one of the beers that you introduced, that you brewed, was called Inauguration Day Beer, and the slogan for it was "Peaceful Transition of Flavor." Is that true? Is that what you called it, and that's how you marketed it?
Yeah, that was our second beer, and that's not even listed on that because we didn't even market it. It sold out immediately before we even could put it in cans. The first batch we did, but it was a chocolate. It was a white chocolate ale, which, given Kamala and Biden, might allude to why I made that beer that way. But it was funny. I had a Supreme Court justice handing Joe Biden a stein of beer. Peaceful transition of flavor.
Peaceful transition. That's hilarious. One of the things that I also think is interesting in this story is it's how business can get involved politically and often in a tongue-in-cheek way. You came to our attention. This is one of the first things that we read about you, and I want to read it. Something that you said behind the business decision making about what you were doing at Minocqua. You said, quote, "I choose to make my brewery 100% progressive liberal after Trump botched the COVID so badly and hurt the service hospitality industry as a result. I now only make products, including beer, wine, and coffee, and merchandise that have very progressive themes. Examples include Biden beer, choice wine, which supports pro-choice, woke coffee, etc. I also founded the Minocqua Island Brewing Company Super PAC to make Wisconsin more progressive, and a percentage of the proceeds of everything I sell is donated back to that Super PAC. I call it dark money meant for good." See, you make the joke over and over and over again. Is the way you're coming at it one of the reasons that people have embraced MBC so much?
Yeah, I mean, we're now selling beer in Chicago, Minneapolis, all throughout Wisconsin, where we just, that woke coffee that you're showing on your screen, we just came out with that nitro-infused coffee. There's an element, as you have to have a little humor in Florida, right? Because of all the crazy things that are happening down there.
Kurt, woke comes to Florida to die. Our governor has told us that.
So that was an idea. So I'm actually the official coffee of the Stephanie Miller Show, who's a very liberal radio host, right? You might have spoken with her before.
Yes.
But her producer called me up and we're like, okay, we got to send a whole pallet of this to Tallahassee, and we can maybe get Ron DeSantis's head to explode if we give him all the. We should do a promo here with this woke coffee just to see if we can make him mad. So.
One of the things that was also interesting to me is proceeds donating to a super PAC. Now, super PAC is, and you even make a joke about it in your statement. Super PACs are the Supreme Court decision's invention to hide political money, to donate into a fund that nobody has to know about, and it buries money. So you create your own super PAC to raise money to donate to various different causes. Yeah. What was the motivation of the creation of the Super PAC?
So, I was going out of business, and all of a sudden I started coming up with political beer. I started becoming outspoken about COVID and how we needed to pay attention to it to get the restaurant industry back on track. But I wasn't, I said I sold all this beer out of nowhere. And so I was like, if I'm going to come back and be progressive, I might as well, be more engaged as a business. So, if the Koch brothers can make a huge super PAC, as a company because of Citizens United, which was, passed in like 2015 or so,
Right.
then why can't I, as a brewery? I'm a company too. So we've raised over $1 million so far in Wisconsin, and we've helped, and the average donation is about $40 a person. Thousands of people have donated, because why would a brewer? I'm not running for anything. And so people, I'm not trying to do anything except for help my home state. And so people actually and everything that I've raised money for, I've actually followed through on and done. And so people now are starting to, donate more money. And we donate about 5% of the profits of all the beer and merchandise that we sell back to that super PAC. And, and we've helped protect Wisconsin's democracy without electing a Democratic governor and without changing the balance of our Supreme Court, which just happened a few months ago. We would have been a corrupt state, which Donald Trump, if he wins the Republican nomination 2 years from now, would have been able to sue and win and overturn the voters of the will of the Wisconsin voter. That would have happened.
We remind our viewers that Wisconsin was deep in the heart of the January 6th conspiracy of the alternative electors that Wisconsin was trying to do. I'm curious, close to bankruptcy because of COVID. You've done this. You've done this now since you've been out of COVID now for a couple of years. What's the reaction in Wisconsin been to you?
Oh, it's love and hate. I've been boycotted by all the major distributors, because they tend to lean to the right. They don't know what to do with me, but people love my beer. Progressives love buying my beer. You can get it in Madison and Milwaukee very easily. And then in a lot of the college towns around Wisconsin, you can get it. But I've been boycotted in lots of places. I get hate. There's a hate group dedicated to me on Facebook, and there's trolls. I get fake reviews. I get about 10 fake reviews on Google and Facebook every day trying to kill my business.
How do you survive that? The hate that comes, the trolls that come, the Proud Boys that march here in Florida, the Mobs for Liberty, all 7 of them, banning 1,000 books in Florida. 7 women are behind 1,000 books being banned in Florida. How do you deal with that? So they're doing this to you. How does a business survive that? What's your strategy of survival then?
Well, first of all, it's a couple of things. One, we do a lot of good. A lot of the money that we donate, people see that it's going to support, get overturn or get Roe back, get abortion back in Wisconsin. We helped elect Democrats. So the super PAC does good things. So people believe in me, at least the progressives. But the funny thing I do a funny thing. Oftentimes the trolls on Facebook or people who write a bad review will be very, it won't be very nuanced or funny. It'll be kind of dumb. And I'm a little bit clever, and I'll turn it around and I'll respond to a review in a funny way, but completely trolling the trolls. And I'll take a screenshot of it and I'll put it on Facebook, and people love it. People absolutely love it. So it's humor, and it's a little bit of sarcasm, and it shows that I'm not gonna take it lying down. I'm gonna fight back no matter what.
And absolutely why Minocqua is a queer story for our community, because first, that's exactly what we have done for 40 years. We take the attack and make a joke of it and turn it on its ear, and bring new allies in because they laugh along with us, which is exactly what you're doing. And for our viewers, let me just point out the many ways MBC is embracing the queer community. In Wisconsin, Kirk, as everyone knows, has a queer senator, lesbian Tammy Baldwin. And according to Kirk, she is a state treasurer, which I think is hilarious coming from an ally in Wisconsin. In fact, Kirk said very publicly, quote, "Senator Baldwin is there for Wisconsin at every turn, fighting for farmers, fighting for small business owners, fighting for those falling through the cracks, fighting for the 99%. At this point, Tammy Baldwin has become one of Wisconsin's many treasurers, like beer and cheese." And that's why we put all 3 of them on a can, end quote. Now, I'm following right along with you, and then you bait me into beer and cheese from Wisconsin, and I laugh. It's genius in terms of the way you are coming to support this lesbian senator. Look at all of the things that she does for everybody, and she's a treasure along with our beer and cheese. Now, every single person in Wisconsin understands exactly what you mean by saying that. Was that the intent?
Yeah, Tammy, and it's a Tammy Shandy, so it's a very summery kind of beer. It's got a lemon extract. It's a wheat beer, and so as long as she's our senator, she gets her own beer seasonally every summer. And so I made it specifically that way, so we'd get to re-experience our Wisconsin treasure every single summer.
That's hilarious. You know, another thing that I honestly really think this story for our queer community, especially for the refugees living in Florida, Tennessee, and Texas. You know, we have a lot of refugees in our community living here in Florida, Tennessee, and Texas. We point out that NBC is putting its money where its beer mouth is. See, we make a joke back, Kurt. NBC markets in their website by saying, quote, "The company sells a variety of political brews. Fair Maps IPA and Indian Pale Ale donates 5% of its profits to the Fair Maps Coalition, an anti-gerrymandering organization, of which, by the way, I come out of quote for a second to say it's something that we've experienced in Florida a tremendous amount, a governor's hand-picked map of gerrymandering." His quote, NBC's quote continues, NBC's Choice Hard Seltzer and Sauvignon Blanc wine were created in response to the U.S. Supreme Court's 2022 decision overturning abortion rights nationwide, and a percentage of Choice sales goes to reproductive rights groups in the state where they are sold, end quote. Kurt, all very intentioned in terms of supporting broad issues in community, and it's kind of like a vote, isn't it? One of the things that we talked about in production is it's interesting to us because you're voting really by which beer you buy, because you're supporting this cause or this cause or this cause. Yeah. Was that part of the intention of what you're doing there? So
to me, first of all, it had to be the best quality beer or wine or coffee that I could possibly make, because people are going to think it's a gimmick right off the bat. But after that, you know, once they buy it once, they're going to buy it again because they love it. But after that, these are little mini billboards across all the across grocery stores and liquor stores all throughout Wisconsin, which is a huge swing state, that remind people that these things matter. And it gets people gets non-political people potentially thinking about it for 2 seconds. They might pick up the can, they might read the back of the can, and that's when I explain why these issues are so important, like restoring Roe, which 70% of Wisconsinites think Roe should be the status quo, but yet a woman can't get an abortion in our state right now. So remind them of that in the liquor store, in the grocery store, but also make a great product so when they drink it, they buy more of it, and other people can see it too.
You know, and Kirk, you beat me to the point. I'm looking forward to tasting your beer. I'm a Guinness drinker, and Guinness Center in Dublin is a holy grail. It's a holy church for me, by the way. But one of the things that I think is so genius about what you're doing is to that exact point. For viewers, let me try to make sure that it's clear what's happening in Wisconsin and other places. You're in the supermarket, in the beer aisle, and you're dealing with, I'm not stereotyping any beer buyer, but you're dealing, let's say, for the sake of our conversation, average Joe and Alice, and they're seeing these messages about Biden or AOC or Senator Baldwin
or choice or gerrymandering.
Right, yeah. And you're watching billboards in the grocery aisle. That's genius, because I really don't think I've seen anybody take this exact approach to political storytelling.
Well, and think about this too. I mean, it's not just me being political. How many craft breweries are there in Florida? Probably hundreds. Right? So everyone always says, go woke, go broke, right? Or if you choose to be political, it's like economics 101, don't be political or else you'll kill your company. Michael Jordan said, Republicans buy Air Jordans too. Well, when you have hundreds of craft breweries who can't get anybody to talk about them at all, why wouldn't it be cool if you cut off half of your market to have the other half be really into you? To be like, this guy stands for what I stand for.
Yeah.
When most of the craft breweries in every state can't even get anybody to think about them for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
It's not a bad business decision.
Yeah, and that's what's so interesting about the story from Minocqua. We watched the Mulvaney response at Anheuser-Busch, and we applauded. It was a minor campaign, but we applauded their commitment to doing that. And the great disappointment of the story is they retrenched as quickly as they waded in. Now, they only put one tiny little toe in the water in the overall scheme of things, but they pulled it out as quickly as they put it in. You're a completely different approach. And also, I would just want to give you an example of how this is a queer issue for our community. Of course, we've just finished June Pride Month. And Kirk, I understand, I haven't tasted it yet. I'm looking forward to it. You launched a new beer called Love Wins. Now, there's nobody in the community that doesn't know what Love Wins means as the challenge. It's a battle cry for our LGBTQ community. And, by the way, it's something Kurt may not be as clearly aware of. Love Wins is the battle cry of the Pulse nightclub massacre from 2016 here in Florida and really all over the world. It is a unique collaboration with Equality Vines, a winery in Sonoma County, California. And of course, our community knows that winery is co-owned by Jim Obergefell, the plaintiff in the Hodges decision from the Supreme Court that gave us marriage equality. Bravo first, Kirk. How did you envision this idea of creating this brand, Love Wins?
So it was an amazing discovery. I was in Evanston, Illinois, doing a beer tasting, and somebody who knew Equality Vines and knew Jim Obergefell and knew Matt Groves, who is the other owner of the winery, said, these guys are making wine that a cause-based wine for the LGBTQ plus community. You should meet them. And so I met with these guys because my choice label was on hard seltzers, which, typically, hard seltzers is kind of consumed by a very younger crowd, not really a politically active crowd. It was a little bit older generally. So choice, I wanted women, I wanted to make a wine for women who were mad about the Dobbs decision. And so these guys made me a wine with my label. And then I asked them if I could borrow their label, which was Love Wins, for a sparkling wine that they make. And so this is their label. This is one that was produced by Jim Obergefell, and I've made a sparkling fruited sour beer out of it. And I'm actually going to be in California with Jim and Matt at Equality Vines at called the Equality Wine Festival, which is celebrating all these businesses that make sinful alcoholic beverages with some sort of relation to the community, the queer community. And so these guys have become really good friends of mine, and we're sharing in the profits of this beer that I've made.
Kirk, I've done hundreds and hundreds of stories in community in terms of advocacy and different ways that we see propelling LGBT civil rights. This story about Minocqua is so inspiring because it's coming from an ally. It's so inspiring because you're not gay, and you still see the big vision of love wins because right is right. I'm curious, what do you say to other small business owners in terms of taking this approach of progressive conversation, the tongue-in-cheek humor of the politics, and what you're doing in community? What would you say to other allies that are like you, and how they should maybe stick their foot in the water?
Stick to your guns. I think there is more of a disgust in America with politicians or companies that are wishy-washy and just say what people want them to hear. People get that. Even your average Joe and your average Alice see somebody telling them what they want to hear. So I think there's a respect, even among people that disagree with me. There is a respect for me because I mean what I say and I believe what I believe, and I'm not going to back down from that. And so that is more important, I think, as a business owner, to be able to lead with your heart and lead with your own truth. Maybe as a small business owner, but still a business owner, that then trying to appeal to every single person and trying to make them all love you. Pick your lane and stick with it. And I pick on the lane of righteous causes, righteous progressive causes.
Yeah, right is right. Kurt, I can't let you get away without talking very specifically about Florida. I already know when I finish this conversation, I'm jealous as all hell that you're not here in Florida as opposed to Wisconsin. In all due respect to our LGBTQ community in Wisconsin, we're here in South Florida. We have more LGBT in South Florida than the entire state of Wisconsin. It's a gigantic. It's one of the largest LGBTQ communities in the country. So you should be distributing your product here.
I know. Oh my God, I'd love to.
Let me tell you why. Being here in Florida, in terms of progressive cause needs, trans healthcare ban, Don't Say Gay, was extended to the 12th grade. More than 1,000 books have been banned this year. Drag performances have been banned. And did I mention that all of this happened in Florida in just 6 weeks this spring? Supermajority, and now we have the 2 leading GOP candidates from Florida. So I know I'm asking on thousands of LGBT's path. Your ability to get it into the grocery stores, to have information in the stores, and how you represent your beer and products. Any ideas, if you did come to Florida, what kind of protest of Governor Ron DeSantis might your beer be called?
Oh, I never thought about a Ron DeSantis beer. It's a good one. It's a good one. We've done Space Laser for Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Right. Wait, you had a specialty brew called Space Laser?
We call it our spent grain collection, which is it's a fake set of labels that we do just for fun.
Oh, I see.
Because we lead with positive stuff, and so but we have this. I mean, I have a mean little sarcastic brain, creative brain that likes to do negative stuff too. So we've done one for Alex Santos. We've done one for Marjorie Taylor Greene. We've done one for Rudy Giuliani called. You'll like this one. It was it made fun of his hair dye that was coming out of his. It's like Slick Willie or something like that. We came up with that. So I don't know what I do for Ron, but we would do something around woke. This is where woke goes to die. We'd probably have him in some Grim Reaper costume.
Yes. All right. So we put the challenge out. LGBTQ community would love to see you and Minocqua distributed in Florida, and the opportunity for us. One of the other things I do want to ask you about, one of our 10 pillars in our nonprofit is to focus on business and the value LGBT business owners and allies that get into the lane of supporting through activism their business brands, etc. of LGBT. We always go through a period when we go through June Pride Month of all of the companies that jump into marketing to the gay community in the month of June, and July 1 rolls around and it's, wait, where did you go? We can't find you anymore. And we love our allies, and we love the business support, and we love the branding. But just comment on that. We call it rainbow capitalism. What do you think from your seat? What do you think about rainbow capitalism and businesses that step in and then step out as quickly as June Pride Month ends?
It reminds me of all the businesses that said they'd never donate to the Sedition Caucus again. All those guys that voted to overturn Biden's victory. All those companies, American Express, Chase, said these people who voted against getting Biden in will never give to them again. A year later, they're giving to they're giving to their campaigns again. So I think that corporate America is going to play to make more money every single time. And I think that, if they're celebrating your cause, then let them celebrate your cause, but stick with the companies that stick with you year in and year out, and every month of the year, not just June.
Yeah, every month. And for you and Minocqua Brewing, you and Minocqua Brewing Company, that is funny. It's really super clear how passionate you are on so many of these subjects, and that you get to it by the quality of the beverage, the product, but also in the humor of the way you market it. I'm just curious from the seat. I understand what you're doing, but help us understand why you're so passionate about being an ally for marginalized communities, specifically LGBT. Why?
Well, to tell you the truth, I don't think I talked to any of your producers about this, but I was a professional opera singer for about 10 years in New York City. And I was a classical music singer at Northwestern. I was a graduate student at Northwestern. So I have spent a large amount of my 20s being with a lot of gay men in my profession when I was trying to be an opera singer. And so I just was part of the community, even though I was straight, because in the opera world, there's a lot of gay men that I was working with, all the time. So to me specifically, I'm an ally to the gay community because, I worked among them for a long, long time.
That's very interesting. Last, I want to ask you about, of course, we want to help you put product in front of our community. Tell us how we go about finding it. We're not lucky enough to be in Minocqua, or no. we're not cheeseheads in Wisconsin. So how do we get your product?
So you can go to my website. We do actually distribute through a third party called Thirsty, but you can just click on our website and you can order it online, and we can deliver my beer to you. But Al, I'm telling you, if anybody's listening to the show right now, I'm happy to talk to a distributor in Florida to be able to distribute my beer down there. I've mostly met with very right-leaning beer distributors so far, and so it's been hard to get my beer outside of Wisconsin. But I'd love to be able to get it to Florida.
Yeah, which is amazing. Wisconsin becoming progressive and liberal. That's just amazing. The last thing, and really inspirational for Tennessee, Texas, and Florida, to be honest with you. One last opportunity. So much of what is behind what you're doing and this business brand that you've developed, that you've made so successful out of the ashes of the COVID-19 pandemic, is talking about elections and why they matter. We talk a lot at our show that the moments of elections matter. Now, a couple of quick examples. 1955, your Wisconsin Senator, Joseph McCarthy, I'm passionate about the history of the 50s, led out of Wisconsin. He is disgraced in an election that ends the lavender scare for our LGBTQ community and the Red Scare of McCarthyism. 1964 was another pivotal moment of election and voting because of the Civil Rights Act, and it becomes the foundation of 50 years of basic human rights extension in America. And of course, for our community, 2015, through a vote by the Supreme Court, that is what voted Hodges in to provide the legalization of gay marriage. Historians call these moments, I just gave you 3 quick examples, the history moment. That's what it's called, the history moment. The history moment of a vote. 2024 is arguably going to be one of the most important of our lifetime. So many marginalized communities are hanging in the balance of what the future is going to be in their state and in America. Kirk, what would you say to those in LGBT that are so afraid of what we're watching in Florida, in Wisconsin, and all over America? What would you say about the importance of that history moment vote that's coming in 24?
So first of all, what I'd say is that they're only picking on you guys because they've won the war against abortion. And so now they can't get the red meat kind of riled up unless they start picking on the trans folks and the gay folks. So this is fake. This is not real. But yes, if they win in 2024, you can expect a lot more. A lot of harder times. So you're absolutely right. First and foremost, marginalized communities have to realize that the vote is the most important thing, and that these places like Wisconsin, democracy is trying to undermine the vote in every turn. Those 4 folks that you have right there are our 4 progressive Supreme Court justices. We just overturned the Supreme Court of Wisconsin so that we have protected our state, our huge swing state, from being manipulated so that our votes will be counted, and we will be probably blue because of that, because we also have a Democratic governor. But that took an extraordinary amount of effort on everybody's parts. The LGBTQ plus community and everybody else worked really hard to get these folks elected so that we could be a bulwark against a potential civil war. If Donald Trump wins the presidency in 2024, it's hyperbole to say there might be a civil war in this country.
Mm. And remind us, in 2016, this starts with Biden beer, and your marketing slogan again on Biden beer was what?
Inoffensive and not bitter. Best consumed with the temperature taken way down.
It is really genius. It is just really genius. It's not set the world on fire. It's just, this is good enough.
Exactly. That's all you needed. That's all we needed.
That's all we need. I assure you, I understand what you're saying. Kirk Bangstad, you want to follow this guy, very interesting ally to the LGBTQ community. And of course, we're giving you the details. The Minocqua Brewing Company, and we have the website up, and you can get details. And we're in Florida. We've got to work on helping access to the beer by a distributor so we can get it on the shelves. Can you imagine walking down the beer aisle at Publix and your beer?
I'll bring some Love Wins to Fisher Island, okay? And we can drink them together. How about that?
Right, exactly. Kirk Bangstad, thank you so much. It's been so entertaining and interesting. Thank you for joining us on Unapologetically Queer.
You're welcome. Great to